Nuclear Throne is a game that I'm not even going to try and be remotely positive about. If you've been near my channel over the last few months, you'll be more than aware of my thoughts on this game. But what you might not know is, despite my vehement hatred for this game and its fundamentals, there are a select few ideas Nuclear Throne has that I think are interesting, and one of those is the game's secret areas. As you do your very best to tolerate the constant middling quality and questionable, if not borderline non-existent balancing decisions, you'll have the opportunity to veer off the main path into various different secret areas, each with their own unique themes and problems for you to deal with. But something that has always bothered me about them is the fact that most of these areas are seemingly pointless outside of one-off visits and niche uses. And so in today's video, that is the question I aim to try and answer. Are Nuclear Throne's secret areas really worth your time? Or are they just another crack on an already shattered glass pane? Oasis is the first of the secret areas, and it also happens to be one of my favourites from a purely aesthetic standpoint. Oasis can be accessed at the very start of the run during Drylands 1. In order to access this area, the player must collect the ammo chest, weapon chest, and radiation canister without any enemy casualties. Doing so successfully will summon Big Bandit. The player must then kill Big Bandit within 10 seconds, and if successful, a portal to the Oasis will be immediately opened on his corpse. Oasis itself contains two enemy types, fish and hermit crabs, and one obstacle, the naval mine. The fish often spawn in packs and move in irregular patterns to try and attack you, while the crabs act as scorpion variants, moving at high speeds and firing a fast-moving split burst of bullets. Naval mines can be left alone, though if attacked they will explode and fire a spread of bullets around them. If the player is able to clear Oasis, they will be sent a whopping 5 levels forward and end up at Scrapyard 3 alongside Big Dog. So now that we know what Oasis is about, let's begin to break it down, starting with point number 1. While the method of reaching Oasis sounds fairly okay, it is actually really awkward to get to. Successfully collecting all the chests and canisters requires pure luck on enemy spawns and environment layouts. Sometimes you physically can't get past a set of enemies, and sometimes enemies will kill themselves on explosive barrels, forcing a restart. Killing Big Bandit is also a pain too, as while you can kill enemies after he spawns, killing him is yet again entirely dependent on getting a good weapon and praying his lack of proper animation cues doesn't fuck you over. All of this is to say, getting to Oasis is incredibly tedious and incredibly unfun to deal with. It's also worth mentioning that due to the fact this fight takes place in Drylands 1 and not 3, the layout isn't designed with Big Bandit in mind, and so there's rarely any adequate space to fight him properly. Next is the quality of the area, and oh boy, we've got a lot to unpack here. There are two glaring issues with this area, and the first is a problem that plagues not just Oasis, but Nuclear Throne as an overall game. Horrifically garish colours and an art style that completely disregards the player's visual experience. You've probably already noticed by now that everything in Oasis is painfully bright, from the actual environments to bullets to the enemies themselves. When coupled with the choice of colours used and the erratic behaviour of Oasis enemies, trying to monitor or see just about anything, really, becomes a near impossibility, as everything just begins to blur together, and whether or not you die to some shit you just straight up can't see boils down entirely to getting lucky with enemy spawns. And although I'm talking about Oasis specifically here, this problem affects every single aspect of the game, and it will crop up in every subsequent floor we encounter from here on out in this video. As you can probably gather, having an entire area be the visual equivalent of staring into the sun with fast-moving enemies with fast-moving bullets and erratic movement patterns would probably lead to it being an awful area to play. And you would be correct. Oasis is an area that tries to act as this quirky, more difficult variant of the Drylands, similarly to another area on our list, and its method of doing this just boils down to making everything faster and harder to see without any semblance of competent structure. Even if the visuals were a non-issue, the enemies here, the crabs in particular, just end up being annoying at best and unfair at worst, and are just a tad overtuned for what is supposed to be on the same difficulty level as Drylands 2. The fish, while fairly inoffensive individually, suffer from a similar issue found in labs, where there are simply too many of them in the swarms for you to reasonably kill in time, especially with your weaker weapons. And when paired with the crabs, you've got a recipe for a miserable experience. So, what reason do you actually have for coming here? Well, unlike other areas, there are no unlocks directly tied to Oasis, but due to the fact Oasis can skip several early floors should you choose to willingly burn your eyes out, it is the most optimal way to speedrun the game, which also makes it a requirement for Plant's bee skin. But other than that, there really isn't any reason a player would want to come here on their own accord. I think it's safe to say that Oasis is, pretty fucking bad, actually, and a really poor start for today's video. But we still have 4 more areas to cover, so let's leave this dumpster fire to burn away and move on to the next area. Acting as the second location on our list, and also as the smallest area in the game, Pizza Sewers is a floor that can be accessed by very simply blowing up the circular manhole cover found inside the sewers with an explosive weapon. The inside is exceptionally tiny, and always consists of the exact same enemy layout, that being 4 turtles who can each dash towards you and bounce off the walls of their shells, and a single rat. Unlike the rest of the areas, clearing this floor doesn't skip or replace any floors, and instead will send you to scrapyard 1 upon completion like sewers would. Unlike Oasis's more tedious and annoying access method, Pizza Sewers is where we see a new trend layout, where secret areas require you to have a specific thing in order to open them up, which in this case is an explosive weapon. The benefit of this is that Pizza Sewers isn't difficult, tedious, or annoying to get into, which is a nice change of pace from Oasis, although there is still a sliver of luck required, as if you do not get an explosive weapon, you'll be barred from entering, which is a little annoying if you're trying to go there, but far from the worst thing ever. The quality of the area, however, is where things begin to get a little muddy. One of the biggest perks this floor has is the fact that it's one of the only places in the entire game that has any sense of structure. Despite the layout being random like always, the small size and enemy spawns always being the same means the area is more akin to an ISO room with a more organised sense of direction, as opposed to the usual random bullshit everywhere structure that the rest of the game follows. And this fact is aided further by not just the enemy spawns, but also the amount of enemies too. Since there is a smaller number of them, the odds of getting hit by some stray shots or enemies is far less likely compared to even dry lands, which is of course leagues better than the rest of the game can say. Two of the biggest issues present in Pizza Sewers stem from both the darkness and the floor's layout. Much like other subfloors, there is still a possibility of a turtle launching itself at you from the darkness without you being able to see it, but this problem is mostly counteracted by the size of the floor, making moments like this much rarer, especially compared to another floor on our list. And the room layout is also a bit of a weird case too. The general layout of Pizza Sewers is very similar to that of the regular sewers, which is supposed to be designed with rats, frogs, and gators in mind, not turtles. What this means is the attacks of the turtles can end up conflicting with the environment, becoming either surprisingly dangerous or just getting stuck in a corridor somewhere. However, this isn't too surprising and is fairly commonplace amongst different areas, see Nuclear Throne as a game for reference. With all this in mind, why would you want to come here? Well, unlike Oasis, Pizza Sewers does have an unlock tied to it. Coming here as eyes will unlock their bee skin, which actually looks pretty cool. That's about it though. The only other thing going to Pizza Sewers does is increase the difficulty of the run, and I don't know why you'd be willing to make this shit worse, but it's your eyes, not mine. So, overall, while I'd say Pizza Sewers is definitely a step up in quality from Oasis, the odds of you holding onto an explosive weapon long enough to reach sewers isn't particularly high if you're going for practicality. Not to mention the consequences of going to Pizza Sewers is honestly enough of a deterrent to make it entirely not worth going to on its own. Unless that slightly better gun is absolutely worth the scrappier level design, then I don't know, go crazy I guess. Ivy's Mansion is the third secret area on our list and can be accessed by bringing a screwdriver to Scrapyard 1, then finding and fixing the broken down gold car. The inside is home to molefish, mole sarges, fireballers, super fireballers, and jocks, who, respectively, act like regular bandits, can fire a shotgun blast, fire slow-moving fireballs, fire a barrage of fireballs at once, and finally shoot missiles. Ivy's Mansion acts as a replacement to Scrapyard 2, and so doesn't skip any floors and has no effect on the game's difficulty. Starting off with the access method, Ivy's Mansion is another case of bring thing to other thing, and much like Pizza Sewers, is fairly inoffensive. It is a little bit worse, as the screwdriver makes for a very poor weapon at Scrapyard and is usually only available within the first 2 to 3 floors. But while kind of annoying to get into, this is far from the worst thing this floor has to offer. So if any of you are familiar with my opinion on this game, then you'll most likely be aware of my opinion on HQ as a floor. That being, on top of the piss-poor design of the IDPD enemies from both a gameplay and a visual design standpoint, they somehow made a floor so ableist in the visuals department that it makes the fucking flooded caves in Curse of Darkness look like the perfect floor. Well, if you switch up some of the enemies and change the colour palette from white and blue to white and red, then you've got Ivy's Mansion. As you can probably imagine, having red, yellow and orange enemies on a red background that shoot red, yellow and orange bullets that all blur together would probably be a terrible idea. And you'd be completely right. And yes, this also applies to the attack that can instantly kill you. When all of this is paired with enemies that can repeatedly spam bullets and obstruct everything around them, it's no surprise that the quality of this floor, much like Oasis, is sadly lacking. However, Yv's mansion is the first floor where you might actually have a reason to come here more than once. Coming here for the first time awards the player with YV, but that's not all. This floor is guaranteed to have a gold weapon chest, which will always contain a gold weapon, making it the only way to obtain one pre-loop. Which is probably useful, maybe, I don't know. So, while YV's mansion is definitely plentiful in its rewards for both the current and future runs, the floor itself is a visual disaster fest, and on that front alone, is really not worth your time.
Shut up! That's right, Beavis.
So I'm going to be honest, I kind of ran out of motivation to make this video midway through writing the YV script, so for Jungle, I'm just going to kind of list off the bullet points off the top of my head unscripted. Okay, here we go. So, Jungle, you get there by going to Frozen City 1 with the Last Wish mutation, then you find the flower and feed it 4 hit points, and then you go to Jungle. There are jungle bandits, jungle assassins, the fly enemies, and that's about it. It doesn't add or skip any floors, it's just a replacement for 5-2. Most of the enemies are green on a green background, so go figure what the opinion is on the visual department. The flies shoot really hard to see maggots, which is great, love that. You get chicken by going there, cool. If you go there, it re-rolls the Last Wish mutation, so that means you can get another mutation for free, which if you want to do that, go ahead. Other than that, no, Jungle is not a good floor. It's a fucking visual disaster fest. And yeah, not worth your time. And that's all the floors. That's all of them done. That's the video. There's the music credits. Yeah. That's the video. Have fun.